Hey there, everyone. Mary Cristelli from PCC Wellness and Recreation back at the incredible Lucero Library for another Wellness Where You Are session. So this evening, I thought it would be nice to do like a low-key stretching routine. I think a lot of folks are either at or nearing burnout just because of, or have been there for a while, because of the pandemic and everything that it's done to our lives and how much everything has changed, and that we're just continuing to live and do lots of stuff like go to school and go to work. And it's like while we're living through this stressful, uncertain, ongoing stressful and uncertain time. So one of the ways that we can help soothe our nervous system and kind of process through that stress response is to do some light movement. And so we're going to do some stretching. So I've got a yoga mat and I also have a blanket here. I recommend having a blanket just for seated stretches, as well as we're going to do a couple of kneeling things. And so it can help pad your knees. This floor is kind of hard and you might have a hard floor, or you might just like have sensitive knees and want a little extra cushioning. So I'm going to sit on the edge of this. And the reason I recommend using a blanket for seated poses is because we want to elongate our spine. And this can help do that. It helps drop our hips down a little bit in our legs and kind of pulls our spine into a more long position. So plus it's super duper comfy to me. So we're going to go ahead and sit in a cross-legged position. And I want you to sit up nice and tall and roll your shoulder blades back like you're hanging your armpits on a coat rack. And that'll kind of help you straighten up and not hunch over. We spend a lot of time hunched over. And so I really exaggerate it sometimes, that like hooking my armpits on a coat rack so that I can open up my chest and not have it collapsed in. The other thing is you want to put your neck in a neutral position, so your spine in a neutral position. And a good way to do that is take your hand and ball it into a fist and then place it between your chin and your chest. And if it fits right in there, then you know that your chin is parallel to the floor. It means it's not up toward the ceiling or crunch down toward your chest. So a nice neutral spine. And what this will do is help us open up our lungs, and our diaphragm will be able to drop down a little bit more freely and we can get more air in. So we're just going to take a couple of deep breaths and then we'll get stretching. So if you want to, you can close your eyes if that feels good to you, and just take a deep breath in through your nose and feel it come into your body. And maybe you can feel your belly expanding and your lungs filling, and then slowly blow that air out through your lips. We'll go ahead and take another deep breath in through your nose and exhaling. Just kind of settling in and being present in this space. And one more time, inhaling. And softly exhaling. Awesome. So next we're going to do some nose circles and kind of stretch out our neck. So gently drop your chin towards your chest. And we're going to slowly roll one way. Just a few times. Making sure that we're tugging those shoulders away from our ears. We don't want to be crunching them up. Pull them down, so put some weight in them. And then once you've gone a few rotations one way, go ahead and switch. And we'll go the opposite direction. Being really gentle. Awesome. Once you get back where your nose is toward the floor, go ahead and bring your chin back to that neutral position. Next, I want you to keep your hands on your lap, and what you're going to do is shrug your shoulders up and drop them down, kind of exaggeratedly. Sometimes we carry a lot of tension up in our neck and shoulders, so we're going to scrunch them up, drop them down. And we'll go and do this one more time. And drop them down. Awesome. So maybe hopefully we've got a little bit of that tension out of our necks. Go ahead and plant your left hand on the floor. Bring your right hand up overhead. Again, making sure sometimes we bring our shoulders up to our ears. We want to drop them down. And we're going to do a nice seated side body stretch. Oh, that feels so good. Oh my gosh. And inhale back to the upright position. Bring that right hand to the floor, left hand up again. Pulling those shoulders away from our ears, leaning over to the left. You might have noticed that my left knee was starting to come up. Excuse me, we're leaning to the right, not the left. My left knee was starting to come up. We want to put some weight in that. If it comes up a little bit, that's okay. But if you can, kind of keep it tugged down toward the floor. Inhale, come back to a seat. We're going to go ahead and come to our hands and knees and do a couple of poses from here. I'm going to take this off. So I sometimes like to pad my knees on with a blanket when I'm kneeling. It just feels nice. So this is a position I refer to as 4 on the floor. When we're in a kneeling position like this, any kind of position, we want our joints stacked. So you want your shoulder directly above your wrist, and you want your hips right above your knees. So what we don't want to be rocked forward. That puts unnecessary stress on our wrist joint. And we also don't want to be back over our feet. So we want our joints to stack. So stack your bones and joints. Once you've done that, I want you to inhale and drop your belly toward the floor and lift your chin toward the ceiling, and you'll feel a nice stretch across the front side of your body. As you breathe out, arch your back up like a Halloween cat and tuck your chin into your chest. And you should feel this stretch all along the back side of your body. Inhale, drop your belly, lift your chin. Exhale, rounding out that spine, tucking your chin to your chest. Inhale one more time, drop your belly, lift your chin. Exhale, round out that spine, tuck your chin into your chest. Awesome, we'll come back to a more neutral position. I'm going to bring my right leg up through. So you might be able to swing it all the way through, or you might have to take a couple of steps. That's okay. We're going to do a lunge. So we're going to stretch out that left hip flexor is the leg I have. So we don't have to go crashing into that front leg. A lot of times we'll do that. And we don't need to do that. We want to stack our joints. So we want our front knee above our front ankle. And the way that we enhance that stretch is not by leaning forward. We can do that, but a safer way would be to tuck your pelvis forward. So you take your hips and just slightly push them forward, and you'll feel that stretch deepen in that front leg. Awesome. So bring your hands down to the floor and kind of walk that front foot up a little bit, and then flex your toes up toward the ceiling. And you'll feel a nice stretch in the hamstring of that front leg. That actually feels very good. If you want, you can let your head hang heavy and kind of relieve some of that pressure off your neck, but you don't have to. On your next breath in, we're going to roll forward, bringing that foot back down. And go ahead and come back to that 4 on the floor kneeling position. And we'll switch sides. So I'm going to bring my left foot up. Again, got that. Keeping that knee above the ankle. Woo. And then I'm just going to gently roll my hips forward to help stretch out that back leg, my right hip flexor this time. I can even feel it in my quad. You might feel the same thing. The top of your thigh is known as your quadricep muscle. So you might even feel it into that muscle. That feels very nice. Cool. So again, we'll come down into a low lunge, inch that foot forward, and then kick your toes up toward the ceiling. Wow, my thigh is like cramping. That's uncomfortable. That happens sometimes. We just work with it, right? Awesome. On your next breath in, we'll come forward and bring that front foot back. And we're going to come back to a seated position. And I'll sit facing you. Okay. So this next position, I want you to take the soles of your feet and bring them together. This seems like an appropriate setting to do this because we're in a library. So sometimes I will, when I'm doing this, I will open my feet up like a book and massage them. So if you feel like you need a little extra TLC on your feet, go ahead and do that. Some people are not super comfortable with that, so whatever works for you. But it just seems so cute to say opening your feet up like a book. So take your hands, you can wrap them around your toes, your ankles, your shins. You can even have them up here by your knees. And we're going to fold forward. So we want a nice tall spine to move into this. And then we're just going to hinge forward at the hips. And once you get to that point where you feel like, okay, this feels good to me, then you can relax into it and kind of let your head hang heavy. You don't have to have, one thing you'll notice is that my feet, sometimes in this, people will pull their heels all the way toward their torso. We don't want that for this one. We want a nice, about a foot of space between our torso and our heels. So just go ahead and lean forward into that and relax. You'll feel the stretch in your hips and possibly up in the top portion of where your glutes are at, your bum. Awesome. Okay, so on your next breath in, you're going to slowly roll back up to a seated position. And go ahead and bring your knees together. Extend your feet out long. We're going to do a seated forward fold. Now, excuse me, some folks might have their knees bent. Others might have them straight. We do want a little soft bend in those knees. We don't want to be completely locked out. But go to your body's degree of comfortability. Stretching can be uncomfortable, but no activity should ever be painful. So sit up nice and tall, and then again, hinging forward at your hips like we did with our feet together. You're going to lean forward. You can put your hands on your thighs, your knees, your shins. If you want and are able to, you can grab your feet. If you have your knees bent, just let your belly rest gently on your thighs. And then let your head hang heavy and kind of feel that nice stretch in your low back as well as along the backs of your legs. All right, on a breath in, slowly roll back up to a seated position. We've got just a couple more stretches we'll do, and then we'll get to most people's favorite part, which is the relaxation piece. This one, I'll have you stack your legs like fire logs. So I've got my left foot on the floor, and I actually have my shin parallel to the mat. I'm going to stack my right leg on top. Some folks may not be able to do this. It might be uncomfortable or even painful. That's okay. What I'll have you do instead, if that sitting on top of each other like fire logs doesn't feel good to you, is you'll put both of your legs on the floor, but you'll have one leg in front of the other. Okay. And then again, nice tall spine, putting your fingertips on the floor, slowly walking them out. You'll feel the stretch along the glute and the hip, maybe even up in the low back of that top or front leg. So I have my right leg on top. If you have your right leg in the front, that's the side of your body you'll feel that stretch on. These kinds of stretches are super important and can be so helpful because we spend a lot of time seated in our lives, and that can shorten our muscles. So stretching these muscles out, our hamstrings, our glutes, our low back, can help elongate those muscles and keep them nice and healthy, which helps reduce our risk of injury. And also releases that tension. On a breath in, go ahead and sit back up and we'll switch legs. So opposite leg on top or in front from the other side. I've got left on top, right on bottom. And again, walking those hands out. I have my left leg on top this time, and I feel the stretch definitely in the left side of my body. When you're doing stretches like these, you might notice that one side is a little bit more or less flexible, or a little bit more or less tight or stiff. I definitely notice that on my left side and my left hip. We carry our bodies in different ways, and I lean on one side of my body over the other when I'm standing, and so some of these imbalances we might be able to feel a little bit more when we're doing single side stuff. Certainly with the single side stretching, there's nothing wrong with that. It's pretty natural to have one side a little bit stronger or weaker, or more or less flexible than the other. So be gentle with yourself is basically what I'm trying to say. On a breath in, we'll come up out of that, and now we're going to lay back on our backs, which is fabulous because we're all just being relaxful tonight. Relax. We're just relaxing this evening. Okay. So go ahead and extend both of your legs out long, and you're going to bring your right knee up toward your chest, hug that in. And then as you breathe out, you're going to cross that knee over the left side of your body, coming into a twist. Now you might feel, excuse me, you'll feel the stretch in your low back on that right side, that top leg. If you'd like, you can spread your right arm out to the side like a wing, and then you'll actually turn your head towards your right side of your body away from that top leg and glance out over your fingertips. Go ahead and come back to center. I like to give my leg just an extra hug, and we'll switch legs. So extend your right leg out, hug your left knee in. And then again, as you breathe out, you're going to twist over across the right side of your body, this time extending your left arm out and gazing over your left hand. Coming back to center, give that left knee an extra hug. And then you can go ahead and just lay back and let your feet and legs get heavy. Let your arms and your hands be heavy. You can let your feet fall out gently to the side. Just kind of lay down and rest. Give yourself permission to relax. This is a restorative pose. You're doing a lot for your body when you are relaxing in a position like this, even while you're awake. We don't have to just lay down to sleep. Sometimes our body just needs to rest and be awake, and that's okay. And so if you have done this along with me, I encourage you to take a few minutes after this video is over and just lie wherever you're at. If you feel safe and comfortable doing that, you can cover your eyes with like a washcloth or even a blanket or something, or a towel, and just kind of rest here. I actually recommend doing a restful pose like this at least once a day for 5 minutes. You can set a timer. It's a good way to kind of transition between something hectic and busy or something where you've been doing a lot of work. So like you can do it as a transition between school and home or work and home, especially if you're working or doing school from home. I'm going to sit up so that I can look at the camera and look at you all. Especially if you're doing school or work from home, it's good to have a transition between that so that you can shut off your working or school brain and move into like, I'm now at home and it's home life. It's really, really important to give our brains some sort of signal if it's not getting in the car or hopping on a bike or walking home, whatever you might do to get to and from work. If we don't have that, then we're not getting that signal, that external signal that our brain needs to know, like, oh, this is a distinct change. So doing something like some light stretches or even some sort of cardiovascular movement, any kind of thing like that that's going to be a clear break from one to the other can be really helpful. And definitely lying down, setting a timer for 5 or 10 minutes, closing your eyes and just focusing on your breath, letting whatever thoughts come into your mind just kind of pass by. You don't have to attach any thoughts or feelings or judgments or emotions to it. It can just be like, oh, yep, I see that. And now I'm focusing back again on my breath. Or, yeah, I know I have to do that later, but right now I'm focusing on my breath. It's super important. It's very helpful. It soothes our nervous system. It calms our brain down. It can calm our body down. And when we're living in times of stress, whether it's because we have all of this stuff going on that's outside, this big global stuff going on that's outside of our control, or even if we're living through stress within our personal lives that aren't necessarily, out there with that the rest of the world is going through at the same time, little things like deep breathing, like light stretching, are really what we need to help cope with that and process through it a little bit. It's not going to be the fix. I'm not saying that it's going to fix everything and make it all better and like now all my stress is gone, but we process out some things, and that can help put us in a more clear state of mind to move forward with the next. So I'll stop talking at you now. I really hope this is helpful to you. We'll be back in a couple weeks with another one. I hope you have a really wonderful evening and that you find time in your days to relax and give yourself the permission for that. Have a wonderful evening and take good care of yourself.